Our next project is going to deal with perspective. So we're looking at your point of view and looking at buildings and geometric things compared to landscape. When we have 1 point perspective, we discussed that that is when we have 1 point where all things recede back into space to. And again, this is just one point of view. So if we look at the angles of these cubes and prisms here, we can see that all of the angles go back to that one spot. So we're going to be creating a drawing that's similar to this. There's geometric forms with a more natural background to kind of see the contrast between the two. First step is going to be finding the center of your paper. So you are going to use your ruler and a pencil to measure over halfway. Your paper is around 12 inches, so that's going to be 6. So that tells me from left to right, this is the halfway point. Next, I'm going to rotate my paper. I'm going to measure the shorter side of it. Same thing, using my ruler. I'm going to put my ruler right at that line that I just made. I'm going to look and see where halfway is. So we've got 9. So I'm going over to 4.5. So this shows me where halfway over is and halfway down. So this is the center of my paper, and it's going to be my vanishing point. So I'm going to keep that point. Next step is we're going to add our variety of forms around. So we're going to add our forms around this vanishing point. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw either a square or a rectangle, either one. And again, we want to spread these out. They can overlap, it just makes it a little bit more tricky. When I'm trying to get a straight line, most of the time I'm just going to use my ruler and line it up even with the edge of the paper. If it's even with the edge of the paper, then I know that my line is going to be straight. You want to make sure that you draw your lines really light so that only you can see them. Some of our lines are going to be guidelines, and we will get rid of them. So I'm going to complete my square or my rectangle. And now I'm ready to start taking my sides to the vanishing point. If something is on the left-hand side, we're going to see the front of it and probably the right-hand side. If something's on the left of the vanishing point, then we're looking at it and we're going to see the left-hand side. Same thing if we're looking up at the top, it's like you're looking up at it, so you're going to see the front and the bottom. If you're looking down at something, you're going to see the front and the top. Again, depending on where it is, depends on what edges we actually see. So now I'm going to start taking my edges to my vanishing point. Make sure that before you draw your line that you press your hand down in the middle and that your pencil is going to mark those 2 points perfectly. Your ruler doesn't move. All right, and then I'm going to check my other points. So if I look at the left-hand side and match this up, if an edge is going to go through a shape, then I'm not going to draw it. This is a closed, shaded in shape. We're not looking into it. It's not open or transparent. It's going to be a solid geometric form. So I'm not going to see the top or the bottom because of where it's placed. It's right next to that where that horizon line would be. To create the sides of a shape, I'm going to take my ruler, line it up with this edge, and then I'm going to move it over as far as I want it to go back into space. And inside of those guidelines, draw my line. Now I've created my shape, and again, I don't have anything from these 2 points because it would go through my shape. I'm not going to draw those. Now I'm going to move on to my next one. So I'm going to move up and put a smaller shape up here since this one was kind of big. And then I'm going to take my points again. They are always going to this vanishing point in the center. All right, and then I've done these 3 points, and again, if I check the fourth one, it goes through the center of my shape, so I'm not going to draw it. So now I'm ready to create the bottom and the side. Again, these lines are always parallel, so I'm just going to line my ruler up with the bottom of this, and then move it down however far I want the box to go into space. I'm going to draw my line across just in these 2 guidelines. To get the right hand side of it, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line my ruler up because this line will be parallel to this one. And I'm going to move it back in space until I touch this point. And then I'm going to draw my line that goes up. And this completes my shape in 1-point perspective. And again, because it's up and above the horizon line, which would be here, I can see the bottom and the right hand side. And this is going to continue for each of my shapes. If I put one right up in the center, I'm going to be creating just the bottom. Put some out to the right, put some down and to the left. So have at least 5 shapes. These shapes can overlap. We can also put other types of shapes in here that aren't just cubes and rectangles. So feel free to kind of experiment with that. In the background, you're going to create a space. So it could be any place. We'll look at some student examples from the past here in a minute. And you're creating that background. Use color. You can use a variety of colors. It could be a color scheme. It could go along with the background as well. Think about what these shapes create. Again, the background could be any place, any time period, any type of world.